Let's talk about Human Resources, the Monster Mash spin-off of Big Mouth. The second and final season of the show just dropped on Netflix, and I'm going to share my honest thoughts and feelings about it. I covered the first season when that first dropped, so if you want to hear my opinion of it, check that out. But for now, let's jump into season 2, with spoilers ahead. Oh, and by the way, there's some more secret monsters tucked away in our upcoming project, The Horror Exchange. See the links below for more. So, Human Resources. Though I found Season 2 to be quite a lot of fun, I did find it to be quite a downward step from Season 1. That isn't strictly a bad thing though, because it's only by comparison. It wasn't as good for me, but it was still a good watch regardless. Something I really like about the construction of Human Resources is how it's not a typical animated sitcom in terms of every episode being a self-contained bottle episode with little to no referenced continuity. Not only does Human Resources carry on subplots from episode to episode, a lot of stuff even carries across from Season 1's events and expands on them. I rewatched Season 1 prior to tackling Season 2, and I found it to be a stronger watch the second time round. It's a crazy show with a stack of crude, brash, loud humour to prop it up. There's plenty of vulgarity, and pretty much everyone you see is a stick of sexual dynamite. Though I've previously found that makes the show's comedy quite limiting at times, my enjoyment of Human Resources doesn't spawn from it being a comedy show, but rather an entertaining show about the human experience. People face lots of emotional battles in their lives, so spending time with characteristically specific assistance for those emotions was always a cool concept to expand upon. I'm so glad that the creators found enough potential in these wild creatures from Big Mouth to give fans a spin-off about the mad world they live in. I found pretty much every main character to be nicely developed from what we saw of them before. I think that the biggest step up here was Pete, the Logic Rock, who was a Colin Robinson-esque drip in the first season, though now has so much more prominence, including now realising his super strength, which was hinted at in the previous finale. The funniest subplot for him to me was the continuation from the Season 1 finale, where he severed one of Dante's 3 dongers, which zombifies and comes back to seek revenge. The thing just can't get put down. It keeps coming back for more, like Michael Bloody Myers. We also see Pete's continued on and off frictional romance with Rochelle, who turns from a love bug into a hate worm. By the way, you can kinda tell that the writers have played into Keke Palmer being a bigger name nowadays, with how much more prominent Rochelle is as a character in Season 2. What I thoroughly appreciated about the show as a whole is how many characters cross-reference one another. Rochelle and Dante's relationship carries into Season 2, where Emmy was in a triangle with them both. Now Dante leaves Rochelle and Pete becomes involved, but Pete and Emmy also have a bit of a connection. You can draw up plenty of diagrams for each character, who they link to and how, what their relationship together is, and at times even having conflicting relations. It's like a genuine office environment, all the little combinations of acquaintances and rivals, which I think the writers were able to pull off really well here. It makes every main character feel much more like a real entity. We are also introduced to a couple new characters too, yet despite new additions being welcome, I didn't find they added all that much personally. Connie and Maury finally have their kid, Montel, who despite being a hormone monster, dreams of becoming a shame wizard. Now, I bloody love the shame wizards. They're my personal favourite concept in the show, but I was saddened by how little Lionel appeared this time round. I'm a big David Thewlis fan and found his character to be the funniest element to the first season, yet he was scarcely used here. Though he does take Montel under his wing, I found Montel to be a pretty annoying character who didn't add that much to this season. We also got Hope, a monster for Hope, though again I don't think much was added by her presence, with her gimmick just being that she's got powerful boobs. I didn't mind the addition of Van, a new logic rock voiced by Miley Cyrus, who has a back and forth relationship with Emmy over their new client, Sarah, a nice inclusion of Florence Pugh. There's a clash between logic and love between them, despite them both wanting to work for Sarah's benefit, though this clashing leads to a flirtatious energy between Emmy and Van. It gave us a new logic rock to explore who are also great creatures, while giving Emmy a decent subplot to latch onto. We do get a reappearance of fan favourite character Simon Sex, where his lustful bond with Walter is further explored, so it was cool to see him again due to just how great Jermaine Clement is. However, I will say that Walter is another character who is put a bit further back out of the limelight, despite being such a big part of season 1. His previous plot, culminating in the death of Yara, was easily the highlight of this entire show, including season 2, with a beautifully touching episode handling life and death, titled It's Almost Over. In season 2, there's nothing quite as poignant, though we do explore the after effects of death through Sarah and her dad Paul. They recently lost Evelyn, Paul's wife and Sarah's mother, which was a sudden, unexpected death, and has had a lasting impact on Paul and Sarah's father-daughter bond. There's some really touching scenes with Sarah saddled down by grief, having not been able to say goodbye to her mother, while Paul attempts to move on, yet also has struggles. Though it wasn't as hard-hitting as Yara's death, I thought that seeing how people handle the death of a loved one in different ways was a profound inclusion to season 2. It makes me wish that the show tackled more of these serious parts of the human existence, rather than being 95% about shagging. There was so much more ground they could have offered here in the spectrum of relatability. It can still be fun and silly, but by being more touching in parts, could have provided further connections with the viewing audience. A highlight of season 2 for me was the germ episode, which starts with a nuclear family of germs living on a keyboard. The breadwinner father heads out to work, and it's all just the continuous spreading of illness around the office from person to person. I loved this episode. Super simple concept. Let's personify the office cold as it transmits between people, seeing the ways in which it's transferred, whether through regular means or via a bit of the old in-out in-out. It was a brilliant silly idea for an episode, which I think season 1 was stronger for. Like, season 1 has an episode all about a secret underground cockfighting club dressed up as a Rocky parody. That is so utterly ludicrous that it's a lot of fun. Here we do get a Die Hard parody for the final episode, which I honestly found to be a strange choice, wanting to have your final ever episode as a movie parody. But regardless, I didn't find as many episode concepts in season 2 to be 100-mile-an-hour ultra bonkers. Maybe that means ending on a second season is a good decision, as if this was what the writing team was able to conjure up, then a third season and beyond may have led to a decline in quality and quirkiness. So if this is all we get, it's ended on a relatively high note, I must say. So that just about wraps up my overall thoughts on season 2 of Human Resources. A notable drop from season 1, though still a light-hearted casual watch I was able to switch off to and get some enjoyment out of, with some of the strongest elements being character progression on some previously underutilised players, despite having to sidetrack fan favourite characters to achieve that result. These are just my thoughts. If you'd like to share yours in the comments, please feel free. Don't forget to check out the Horror Exchange, and a sub to the channel if you haven't already would be greatly appreciated. I've been Connor from Unleash the Ghouls. Thanks for watching this honest review, and cheers out.